I'll be talking about the maternal as erasure of the erotic. This is part of a collaborative research project with Kahira Ngige. He wrote an essay called Black Female Bodies, in which he argued that the headscarf was both an emblem of sexual repression and a sort of saintly halo in the British post-colony of Kenya. His argument was that the Kenyan woman, and the distinction here is Kenyan woman because there was no Kenya pre-independence. The Kenyan woman was to be differentiated from the savage, bare-chested, scarification-marked, loincloth-wearing, primitive erotic, as I've named her. And this woman was no longer to rely on misknowledge of natural phenomenon. She was to be reinvented through the church and the state into a woman who served the good Lord, her husband, and her nation to the best of, her abilities. What I am looking at is three women. One, the Kenyan woman, who I've called Mama Baby, and she's the headscarf wearer, and how she is in defiance of the primitive erotic, which is the savage loincloth wearing African woman, who I have named Lawino, as per Okot Perbitek's Song of Lawino. And she's also in defiance by sexually oppressing herself to Miss Babe, who is the modern African woman who wears the short skirts, has makeup on, wears long weaves and bleaches her skin or doesn't bleach her skin. And I've named this woman Ifemelu after Chimamanda's character in Americana. So, hi Chimamanda. So my understanding of these three women is meant to inform how something like public strippings of immodest women can happen in Nairobi, which happened in November 2014. So that's what I'll be looking at. I'll be talking about the primitive erotic first. I've named this archetype Lawino after the eponymous poem by Okot Perbitek, Songs of Lawino. And this character is seen as a non-critical participant in society. She's a loincloth-wearing, bare-breasted savage who goes into bushes to look for medicine and food for her family or her children. And she participates in customs and traditions that she's not allowed to question. The problem with this image is there are historical figures who do not fit into it. There is Wango Wamakeri of the Kikuyu, who was a matriarchal figure. There is Mekatilili Wamenza, who took on wars that men at the time did not. So it then becomes problematic to say that the African woman, before she was civilized in the Kenyan space, was this primitive savage, because one, what kind of civilization are we talking about? And two, why do we need to erase this image, if at all? The problem is also that nudity is now inherently linked to trying to arouse male sexual desire. So you'd find that it's easy to justify the sexual harms and the sexual crimes that happened in the colonial era and in the independence war to females in the African space, because they were naked, nude, or half naked, or they were not dressed in a proper manner. And if you're not dressed in a proper manner, then you are asking for it, because to rape is not wrong, to be raped is wrong. And so it becomes clear now that the only way to erase this image of the African woman is to control her through the church and the state. And that's why you can have the state coming in and saying, we're thinking of banning miniskirts, and we're thinking of putting in measures so that you do not look like a prostitute. And we're thinking that you should wear headscarves and try to not defeminize yourself, but align yourself with a cultural nationalism. So where the church and the state come in, we find Mama Baby. I've named Mama Baby Paulina after the character in Marjorie McGuire's novel Coming to Birth, which is about post-independent Kenya. So it was decided that to sanctify the black female body from the fires of the erotic was to sacrifice it at the altar of the sanctified. In this case, you find the first president of the Republic of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta, going, to public and saying, I'm pushing for the banning of miniskirts because it's promoting Kenya as a prospering market of prostitutes. You have the Attorney General honestly trying to ban miniskirts because he thinks the legs are the ugliest part of the female anatomy. What you have is then this dialogue, or rather monologue, from the ruling elite, who are mostly male, dictating and policing what womanhood is supposed to be and what the culturally national Kenyan woman is supposed to be like. You then have women groups such as the Catholic Women's Association having headscarves as part of their regalia. You then have households and nannies and maids having headscarves as part of their regalia. You have the headscarf introduced or reintroduced to a lot of African independent churches as part of what the women are meant to wear. And those women are wearing headscarves, one, because it takes them away from the primitive erotic that we've already talked about, but they're also wearing this headscarves because it's a politically charged move to wear this headscarf. It's aligning yourself with being a good Kenyan citizen, being a good Kenyan female citizen. So then it's here that we find that the opposite of the erotic is dictated to us as the maternal, because who wants to fuck a mother? And in this sense, you find that an African woman, according to Zambudzi in 2004, is expected to convey qualities of quietness, modesty, gentleness, and good motherhood. And you find that if someone becomes a mother, then they stop being themselves, in that you're no longer to address them as Anita, for example. You're to address them as Mama, insert child's name here. So Mama Gertrude, for example. And that became a key part of their identity. So discourses of sexuality, of domesticity and respectability then became crucial to the regulation of women's behavior. And so when you find Paulina wearing her headscarf, being modest, trying to be a good Kenyan citizen, how does she then fare, or how does she survive in this space as compared to the next woman we're going to talk to, who have named Ifemelu, or Miss Babe, after the character Ifemelu in Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. There is a palpable tension between Miss Babe and Mama Baby. Mama Baby believes in the sexual repression of the female as a form of survival. Miss Babe does not. Mama Baby believes you should go to church wearing church clothes. You should be able to cook, you should be able to take care of your children, and that motherhood is most important. Miss Babe does not necessarily agree with this. Miss Babe will wear red lipstick no matter what A$AP Rocky thinks about it. Miss Babe will wear tight jeans and miniskirts. She will have as many sexual partners as she wishes, as long as she is responsible. And even if she has an unwanted pregnancy, she's fiscally capable of taking care of herself and her child. What Miss Babe knows is that she has the financial freedom because she contributes financially as an equal member of the society. The tension here then becomes, because Miss Babe is in defiance of what Mama Baby stands for, is Miss Babe in her newly eroticized form a new form of the primitive erotic? And we find that she is not. Miss Babe is part of the socialite model who believes that if showing your skin gets bills paid, then show your skin. You will find that the public strippings that happened in Nairobi, it was the men who had decided that the women were immodestly dressed. This comes from having a state in which the president himself could have said no one should wear miniskirts because miniskirts are for prostitutes. You also find that Miss Babe in her own way demonizes the primitive erotic. Ifemelu demonizes Lawino in that she wants to move as far as possible not just from her Africanness, but from what people would argue is her blackness. There's an increase in the use of skin bleach, and people are trying to look lighter. There's versions of colorism that are happening that are inherently linked to this tension between these three images of the African female, between Lawino, Paulina, and Clement, and Ifemelu. So how then is Miss Babe going to fare if she does decide to become a mother? Does she then turn back to Mama Baby? And where in all this is Lawino? What is the role of Lawino in this history of erasure?